a couple of points we need to clarify. Some of this is just for satellite 3 and procedure helpers, but I want her to address David here since she comes in late. Let's say that a note goes to satellite 3. That's satellite 3 takes the circumstance that the individual that the note has been written about, or the individuals need help from procedure helpers. Okay? Now, procedure helpers, it is not their place to take both sides of the coin of that note and go back to the person who wrote the note and tell them that maybe they were looking at it in the wrong light. That's not the only, am I not right? It's right. That it's the only thing they can do is go to the person that the note was about, because that person has been observed repeatedly under that circumstance, or the note would not have reached satellite 3 anyhow, according to instruction. So procedure helpers could go, let's say that Song Odie wrote a note, Song Odie was the check partner, wrote a note about Press Odie, I'm just making this up, wrote a note about Press Odie breaking instructions in the lab, and it went to satellite 3. And then satellite 3, in turn, gave it to procedure helpers. Procedure helpers go back to Song Odie and Press Odie and tell them to examine Song Odie and her check partner, and tell them to examine whether or not they were seeing it right. That's not what they're to do. They're only to go to the person that the note was about. And the note was about Press Odie, so they go to Press Odie and they help her understand the circumstance, that it has been seen in this light, and she can thank them and examine her position. Because we've got to assume that before Song Odie and her check partner would have written the note, that they have examined their position very carefully, repeatedly, and they don't need a lesson back from procedure helpers. That's the point we're making. Can you all follow that? And what was the other thing that you...
The other thing is that if satellite 3 receives notes that normally come up here to us, and the ones here read over them and try to answer it, and if they can't, then it goes on up to me. It's this procedure. Now, the notes that are like that will not be turned over in the main craft to a procedure helper.
No, they have nothing to, procedure helpers have nothing to do with it.
Okay?
Let's say notes that, I'll just repeat what T just said. Let's say we were in your craft in Amarillo. Notes that would normally go on link spindle from satellite 3 will continue to come up here. Will continue to go to the retreat from satellite 3. They don't go through procedure helpers. They don't get edited more. You might have taken what we said when we said that Lynx was going to go to a place where we could be a little further out of reach. That might have been interpreted that satellite 3 should edit them even more, and by the time they got up here, these would edit them in the retreat even more, and by the time the Lynx got them, they wouldn't even know what's going on. And we'll correct that if we gave that misunderstanding. So the same kinds of notes that would have been put on Lynx spindle if Lynx were occupying quarters in the Amarillo craft will still come from satellite 3 to the retreat. And the retreat people will process them and alert Lynx to anything they need to be alerted to, plus pass on certain ones that would be normal procedure to pass on.
Now, we had procedure helpers send a report.
Yes, procedure helpers send a report. Procedure helpers send a report anytime they have had a task to do as procedure helpers. And that report goes to Lynx.
So if there's something left, then
they can now be aware.
Wait a
And
minute, I don't understand.
she's saying that it didn't go into the craft book about procedure helpers, and that means that the people at large in the craft could be confused as to why these individuals were coming to them.
But the people
Because
who,
sometimes they aren't Satellite 3 people.
like the procedure helpers, all of the procedure helpers, even though they're not in Satellite 3, know that they're procedure. Okay, did you all know?
See, now they know. And put it in the book and clarify it, okay?
What it's on page, but
Yes. Certain people have been appointed to task of helping individuals with procedures, and we're calling them procedure helpers. And some are in Satellite 3 and some aren't in Satellite 3. So if you get approached by some of that committee, probably they'll make a camel instead of a horse.
nobody knows that.
Okay.
Cadoti informed us that a committee, camel is
A horse made by a committee. Okay, we first would like to kind of quickly, if we can, go through any questions brought up from the crowd. Are there any questions brought up? Did you all get questions? Well, that's good. Okay. Then we'll just read you something for amusement.
You all brought this up yesterday, so this is my first chance to see it myself. So if you recognize something that's happened in your life at this time,
Yes, he's giving an interesting little clue to something you find interesting. Like he said yesterday, the UFO clipping book came out to the retreat, and there's an article in here says, and it was August 5th, Gulfport, Mississippi, Herald. Charles Hickson, now that's 82, Charles Hickson claims alien beings will, and this is a good word, transmogrify world attitudes within the next 12 months. Now, he says alien beings will transmogrify world attitudes within the next 12 months. Now, from the Jackson County Bureau Chief, here's the article. Beings from another world will change the self-destructive course of this planet next year. Then they'll come down in force, says Charles Hickson of Gautier, who says he has been in physical and mental contact with these aliens. We're going to see something I can't even comprehend. There's going to be a strange power or energy released on Earth that will work on our minds and turn our minds from different things besides war, he said. At the end of next year, we won't know this world. Hickson, 54, a general superintendent in shipbuilding for Universal Systems, said he's been chosen as one of 12 people who will serve as liaison between the aliens and the people of Earth. He's been in touch with a few of them, but not all of the 12 have been chosen yet, he said. Nearly 9 years ago, Hickson and a young co-worker, Calvin Parker, received national attention when they claimed to be spirited aboard a UFO in Pascagoula the night of October 11, 1973. The two, who then worked at the Walker Shipyard in Pascagoula, said they were fishing from the old shipyard pier on the river when they heard a zipping noise, saw strange glowing lights, and then saw a strange craft descend from the sky. The two said that three beings, Hickson now says that he knows they were robots controlled by aliens, floated out of the craft and took the men into the ship. They said they were observed by a giant eye for 15 to 20 minutes before they were escorted from the craft. It's been a terrible life for me these last 9 years, said 54-year-old Hickson Wednesday when he called a press conference at his home on a quiet Gautier street. He said his companion, Calvin Parker's life is ruined forever. Parker, who was 19 when he said he shared Hickson's experience with the UFO, left the Pascagoula area almost immediately after the incident, and Hickson said he had a nervous breakdown. Now married, Parker lives in Texas. Hickson said Parker had another breakdown when the aliens tried to reach him again. He just couldn't take it. Hickson says ever since that October night, he has been in frequent mental contact with the alien beings, and on 3 other occasions in physical contact. Several years ago, the Hickson family encountered an enormous UFO while they were driving in their car, he said. They contacted me a few days ago. The time or place is not important, he said, although the aliens did not tell him to do so, Hickson said. Something is compelling me to tell everyone of the coming events. He's planning to lecture on the coming of aliens throughout the country, but says he has stopped work on the book he has been writing about his experiences. The final chapter hasn't been written, said Hickson. We're heading for total destruction. The only thing that can help us is something from another world. Hickson says he's not been influenced in his thinking by the latest science fiction box office hit E.T., nor is he promoting his lectures or his forthcoming book by his predictions. Hickson said the aliens told him the energy, in quotes, will be released on the world early in '83, and after nearly a year, the beings will arrive. By the end of '83, we'll be softened enough and changed from our bad ways, he said. They're coming down to see what they've accomplished. If they come here now, all nations will take up arms. And he said the aliens would now be attacked rather than accepted. He said there is little physical difference between those creatures and humans. They are not monsters, he told reporters. The knowledge these people have is beyond belief, he said. He said he is a religious man, a Christian who believes in mastermind and master plan. He does not liken the events he predicts as the end of time. Through my mind, I receive messages from it. There's nothing I can do, said he. He said his relationship with the aliens has often bothered him so much over the years that at times he has lost all will to live. Hickson said he has been chosen as one of the 12 because all my life when I believed in something, nothing could change my mind. I'll see it through to my death. We'll be in a different world next year, he said. You wait and see.
Can you all pick up on what you're picking up on? I mean, can you interpret it? In other words, it's exactly what you've been doing. Of course, I don't think his time is right, because I don't believe he has the ability to receive information that accurately. We know how difficult it is for us, and I know it would be even more so harder for him. But I think what is so good is it's sort of a verification of what we had told you about the New Age beginning
and the significance of what you're now writing and the thoughts that you're depositing.
And of course, I don't believe all of this could possibly happen. Well, it may happen. I doubt it, but it may happen over a period of time, just like your book might not be seen or even received until close to the end of this big age. If you all can understand that. In other words, they might read them, but they might not understand them because they don't have the ability to understand until closer toward the end of the next stage.
Which would be the same thing. In other words, when they begin to receive them, and it begins to have interest, and that interest then multiply, then that would be the beginning of the new period. Can you understand that? So it's like when Jesus left, don't forget the world wasn't all for Jesus, or he wouldn't have been crucified. It was like 50, 60 years even after he left before gospel writers started writing about the experiences. A few little churches were springing up, but they didn't amount to anything. But then slowly, as time passed, the seeds were planted and the New Age began to get more momentum. And it's true, then the information's from over the globe.
But it doesn't mean that people won't begin to improve. Otherwise, your thoughts would, if they wouldn't improve, then your thoughts would be wasted. You know what I mean by that?
We feel like that your thoughts have been picked up at different levels ever since you've been working on those thoughts. When you began concentrated efforts, even back when you first met up with us and no longer had a cigarette or a drink or anything of that sort, the discipline of your choosing to lick those things went out, and it didn't take too long a time until it had gone out to the extent that the nation was publicizing all the dangers of nicotine and then alcohol and so forth. So the thoughts have been out, and they've been going out as long as you've been putting them out, and as long as the strength has been given you to help put them out. So, like T said, that's not wasted. That's not something that's going to wait and happen later on. That's underway now. That will actually be the fact that those thoughts have been out there working will make the people start looking for this kind of information. Otherwise, they wouldn't have the momentum to look for it. Why would they look for it if they weren't already getting the thoughts of, I've got to better myself, I've got to stop all these addictions to this, that, and the other. And the world is so rotten, something's got to be the answer. It's the second coming. You know, that's what they thought, even though the wrong title was given, just like the wrong title was given in Jesus' time.
Everything, all knowledge comes in this way, like you all were doing. In other words, knowledge like inventions, automobiles, and so on. As people begin to reach out for something to ride in rather than walk, or to ride behind a horse, on a horse or something, then the thought is deposited by the next level. But this is something that has to be done in this way, and it may be just an experiment at the next level is doing. Remember, that's all they live for, are the different experiments that they have to upgrade the civilization that they are fostering at that time. And so in a sense, you all, with the power of your mind, and if you all could appreciate the power of your mind, your vehicle might or your booger might make you think you have weakness, but you all have a lot stronger mind than you realize. And with the force of ours, all of our combined minds together, that makes sense, all of our minds that are combined together, really put a lot of thought into the atmosphere. And so every one of you really are needed in this endeavor. And in the process of your keeping your booger under control, trying to do the things that have been designed for you to do, from the way you cook beans to the way you consume beans. Everything has been designed for you just exactly like what was designed for the children of Israel back in Moses' day. In other words, you're teaching them a new way of life, from how to rest, how to work, how to handle an out-of-craft task, how to bathe, how to consume, how to treat each other. Self-control, honesty, well, just everything. Everything is down that individuals need to, even from how you keep your house, the Christ that you live in, the cleanliness, how you brush your tongue even when you brush your teeth. Remember all that? From the way you shampoo your hair every day. Everything has been given to you that is needed in order to upgrade individuals. So you I don't believe it. They know it to a certain degree, but they don't know it all the way. You see what I'm saying?
No, and the Bible used to say that man's best, the one thing that he does the best is his vanity. And that's about the only things that they know how to, or some know how, motivated by their vanity, which is an improper motivation, but their vanity has still been the thing that would make them keep themselves better than others, even though it's the wrong motivation. I wanted to correct what I said a moment ago about the second coming. I didn't necessarily mean it was an inappropriate title, because in a sense, since Moses' time, it might be the second major time that the next level has come to the degree of starting a new age with upgrading information. Can you follow that? So, in a sense, the second coming of an age and of considerably updated opportunities through information might be more appropriate title than the real life. Even though it won't be the person with the scars in the hands and the sides coming down floating on the cloud, saying, y'all come.
Good question. I'm going to finally enlighten me. It kind of reminds me of Locke when he tries to relate I'm not sure they're in the main situation, but I think it's very
Yes, that block is your book. You've got to push through that block. That block would come in there automatically to have it seem difficult to translate that in a way that humans could utilize it. And it takes hard work, but you've got to push through and put the effort out to translate those procedures and those experiences of how to conduct yourself with your classmates and others.
Actually, it would be treating each other the same way. You're telling them how to treat each other.
And not to have poor responses.
And even the older member or the teacher, you would still teach them how to have respect for them. In other words, they don't know how to have respect for teachers or older, or if...
and humans don't believe there's such thing as an older member. In other words, they think that everybody on the planet is a human being, and that nobody deserves any more respect than anybody else. And thus maybe humans have given him a position like the president or something like this, and then the president in the position merits more respect. But you know what I'm talking about? You can, in other words, they don't even have their minds open to the fact. They don't even let the thought come that someone could come to them and tell them something they don't know. If you go to a human, if an older member goes to a human and tells them so-and-so, the human will turn around and tell the older member what he thinks the score is and tell the older member where he's wrong. Because the human has not even adjusted. He has dropped the fact that years and years and years ago, members of the kingdom of heaven were actually in contact with humans and directed them and gave them instructions, and they listened and they had to abide by them. Now, if humans, those humans who do ever expect to reach the kingdom of heaven, are going to have to change their thinking and realize that someday they may come in contact with someone who actually is wiser and older and has a right to tell them something that they have no right to rebut. Can you understand me? T and I, when we began to awaken a little bit and had information that we knew was right, and we were so eager to share it with someone, and we would tell it to someone, and they'd say, oh, well, that's very interesting. Let me tell you. So, and then they would tell us what they thought, and what we had told them went right down the drain. as having no more importance to them, and it made us sick. And yet the person would think, well, who in the world do you think you are that you would have something more knowledgeable than I might have? Because that's the way humans have been brainwashed to think. And that thinking is going to have to change. Otherwise, they are liars when they say they look for the return of the kingdom of heaven. If they wouldn't give one of the members credit for knowing something more than they know. Can you see the inconsistency there? It doesn't make any sense.
Are you saying also that you're wondering how to place older members in your book? Yes. I mean, in other words, you can actually, what we do, we use ourselves as an example of an older member because we're trying to teach you how to, in other words, we're trying to refresh your memory, plus teach your vehicle how to respond to older members. And so in a sense, they need to know when you write your book, humans who read this will have to know how to treat older members.
Wouldn't it be good if they told them the difficulty that they had in overcoming the habit of the vehicle of rebelling against a wiser instruction? Because you've got to be helpful to who might read this. They've got to realize that they've got to prepare themselves for contact. In theory, what if the next level said, I want you all to go out and work with X number of humans, say a little while after, not that this would happen, I hope not, but let's say that your information was out, your thoughts were out, people were picking up on it, and they were looking for it, and then they sent you out to help some of it actually get caught on better. And you went out, but the people who you came in contact with said, well, treated you the same way that we just described that we used to be treated. They just said, well, that's interesting, and then they told you what they thought was the case. You would have to not listen to them. You would have to say, now, wait a minute. You don't know what I know. You may think you know what I know, but I know what I know because of what I have experienced and what has been given me to know it. And if you want to receive it, then you can listen to me, and I want to help you receive it. But if you're here to fence with me about it, I'm wasting my time. I don't care to give my gift to you if you are choosing to fence with me. Didn't you hear that from us in the early stages when you fenced? You would keep your mouth closed, but your bayonets were just a-going, and you were just having a horrible time.
Tell us what you thought.
And it's exactly the same thing. And so it wouldn't hurt to prepare them for the acceptance that they must have. And that's a very hard nut to crack, because you could go out here to about any preacher, any lawyer, anyone who thinks they are in an elevated human position, and he would take anything you said with a grain of salt, and wouldn't realize that he was talking to someone that his type of experiences were elementary to him. Do you follow what we're saying? And if you were going to help them, now let's go back to what we were talking about. We said, should you have to go out and do such a thing after this information is out? Now, if the information that goes out includes these thoughts, then the door would be more open for older members to relate to them, because they would be prepared. A long time ago, even in the human world, before it became so common for children to talk back to their parents and everybody to think they were such equals, whether they were or they weren't, even humans used to feel that someday their life might be blessed, they might be visited by an angel without even knowing about it. And they hoped to be ready for such an experience and to have an open mind and to take advantage of such an experience. Now, thinking like that has gone right down the drain for people expect. They never expect to run into anyone who could know any more than they know, except maybe about skill. They would expect that the surgeon would know more how to handle the surgeon's knife, and that way, but not know more about what creation is about. So push through and try to put understandings like this in your book.
You want to remember that as you are writing your book, the thoughts don't come from your hand onto the paper. They come from your brain and they go into the ether. In other words, you're doing a concentrated version of putting thoughts into the ether as you write your book. Can you understand me?
I'm going to repeat it because as you write your book, the potency of the thoughts you're depositing are much stronger than ordinary because you are thinking so hard and so carefully about wanting to word it right and getting the thought clear, much clearer than you would if you were just thinking it. When you're putting it on paper, you're trying to get it much clearer. When this vehicle, before it began to awaken at all, I was the epitome of the stubbornness that I just mentioned to you, of thinking that I could never run into anyone who could tell me anything, that it was just my idea shared, your idea shared, and we both walked off with nothing. It's about the way it was. And even though I didn't realize what a guard my booger must have even carried with me then, to make it almost impossible for me to be willing to accept information higher than what I knew. Can you follow that? It was a very, very difficult thing for me to break down the programming there to be open to being used in the way we are being used in this task. No, because there's no reason to think in those terms. The updates you have had kind of made that kind of thinking obsolete. Because I wouldn't know where to put thoughts like that. Now knowing that you have come from the next level for a task like that was talk of trying to help you understand, looking at you from the viewpoint of a plant coming up from this garden, trying to make it into the kingdom of heaven.
I'm not talking about me.
Well, actually, what you're doing, you're writing what is happening to you, what is happening to you. You're not writing something.
That's right. But let me get, yes, in other words, that's back to we don't want to sermonize. We're not trying to, you're telling what you have experienced and what you came to know, so forth. And as they read it, it will associate with them. You're not trying to preach sermons other than the few little areas that we have told you of misconception. But on what you're saying, I also remember that we said actually the mind in there is very pure and very good. Do you remember that? We said the mind in here, even though it's small, is very pure and very good. And it's what the mind has to blossom through that is the difficulty and the hazards and what do you call it when they're running a race and they're jumping? Yeah, the hurdles, the obstacles. That's right. Do you remember that? And that's still true. The little mind in there that has come up is still very pure, even though it hasn't developed strong enough to take a better direction. Sometimes it'll be weak, and so it'll take a poorer direction. And the poorer direction can get it off the track and get it involved with all the things of this world and the vibrations of this world and the weaknesses of the vehicle. But the more that little mind forces straight in the direction of goodness, the more then it starts heading on a progression that will lead it to develop. I don't know if that's clarifying what you're thinking about.
Well, I was just thinking about like the person was addicted to something. Let's say something was information. They have to take their weakness. And doesn't that weakness
Oh, yes.
in mind?
Oh, yes, but it's not actually, I guess I was seeing it differently, because it's not, it's an area of lack of development of the mind. It didn't develop to be strong enough to resist, and that's it. And so that same thing would reappear in order to give it an opportunity to develop the strength to resist that area.
That's what I was referring to mentioning, and I had mentioned about checkers. Just what we consider
I don't see anything wrong if he doesn't. You're going to have to mention, as we've told you before, that you've got to develop the strength of will, which is the same thing as mind, to overcome all the habits and elements of the human kingdom and of this planet. And that says it right there, doesn't it?
You haven't done it before, you're going to do it this time.
It doesn't matter whether you've done it. It's that it has to be done. You know, one of the biggest things that Satan and his forces, the way he really gets you in trouble in this world is by having you not even consider, by having humans not even consider that they've had previous lifetimes. Like the greatest majority of humans come into the world thinking this is the one life I have to live, and I've never experienced all these things. And so the one thing I've got to do is experience all these things, and then after I taste of them, then if I don't like them, I'll choose to drop them, which isn't the way it works. That's the lower forces have programmed you. Even in things that weren't so seemingly, that seemed less harmful, like you were taught you've got to eat everything, not just things you like, you've got to try everything. Crabs, clams, lobsters, every kind of garbage you can think of, you're not really with it unless you have indulged in everything that you can, that the humans thought were consumable or that you could participate in. And traps are set for you in that way because it can take you a long time to get out of those things. Now, by the miracle and the power of the next level, this vehicle was able to go at a very fast pace through all of those ridiculous things and somehow or other survive and get out. But and I mean somehow or other, because it's not an easy thing to do. And I resent that the world has programmed it so strongly that everybody must indulge in everything. And I couldn't understand why T had never tried this, never tried that, never tried. And I didn't have any interest in that. And I couldn't understand, how could anybody not have an interest in those? How could you make a decision not to do it if you hadn't tried it? Can you see what I'm saying? That's how gullible I was to the influences of this world that said you should indulge in those things. Until I learned to respect someone who had enough mind to look at something before trying it and saying, that's not for me. Can you see that? Now that shows a considerable difference in my mind right there between who T is and who others are. I don't know if you can appreciate that. but to me, it showed, taught me a lot. When we were first awakening, I thought, well, for heaven's sakes, you're not even aware of what's going on in the world because you haven't tried all these things. What's the matter with you? You know, of course, I made up for both of us because since I'd experienced them all, then he didn't need them.
You can look at it from both sides because I have found out that what I've experienced, Joe has not. And it balances out very well.
If I'd known about it, I would have.
Well, the thing of it, I think this is the way it's supposed to be. And I don't know that it has anything to do with the mind or anything else, but I feel like your task
the design of the balance.
Right, and on my task. But I know sitting where you're sitting, you probably sit in this way, but no, I don't feel that. I feel like I experienced all I needed to experience.
Which I have a considerable respect for, which is what I'm trying to say, and which is extremely uncommon for humans to permit themselves to think that way. He even had enough respect unconsciously for the next level to be afraid to participate in certain things because she didn't feel they were right. And well, can you see what I'm saying? But the only reason I'm bringing this up is because humans have got to come to the point where they learn that growth is through restraint. The opposite of growth is total indulgence.
This also brings up fear. Fear is the heart of things. In other words, if you have such a strong desire inside of you to please the next level, then you would be very afraid to do something against it.
That's my displeasure.
And that's a very good characteristic to develop if you have to develop. Because I know, like Doug said, it was very strong inside of me that there was a point in my life I could go one way, and there was a point that I could go another way. This was long before I knew about this kind of thing. And I thought, if it was this way, it would pull me away from the feeling that I had toward what I call the Heavenly Father. You know, like all of you were programmed to believe that if you were raised in the church or something like that, you believed in God and it was here and you wanted to be. And when I got to the point where I felt like I would be pulled away from Him, in other words, it would take my mind off of what the time that I could spend thinking in His direction, then I knew it was spiritual. And this is something that all members of the next level have when you're in their kingdom, and hopefully they have it also when they're on a tank such as this, where you should develop it. And that is, if something pulls you away from, gets your mind off of what you are doing, and it's not like to be afraid.
Get your mind off of your relationship with.
That's right. Like, for instance, if you're at your work and you meet somebody, like you have an autograph table, let's say that you meet someone you like very well. You stand there and talk to them for 5 minutes, as much as 5 minutes, and you are so involved in that conversation that you forget who you are and you are in trouble at that time. Trouble. You have taken your eyes off from who you are and have slipped into the vibration.
And you're very vulnerable. You're on shaky ground. When we used to even go to picture shows to see about you all going to see them, and we would carefully see that our minds were not so involved in the picture that we could watch it for 5 or 10 minutes without being aware of it.
Scared me one time when I saw one. I think I told you about when it was so involved in it that I honestly went for some time without thinking about this. And it scared me because I thought, my gosh, I'm capable of doing this, and I don't want to do this.
And when that period, if you went a period of time without thinking of who you are, then when you're reminded of who you are, doubt comes right in with it to think, goodness, where am I? Is this is where I thought I was a fantasy, or is this reality? In other words, you're threatening the stability of your position.
This side of it.
It's like you have hung up the receiver contact that you had with the next level. You've hung it up for a while, and then you pick it up, and why should they instantly be ready to be full energy with you again when you chose to hang up on them? Can you follow that way of thinking? When you shouldn't put yourself in such positions.
In your meditation, we're teaching you, or hopefully you're learning how to think of two things at the same time. In other words, you're thinking of concentrating at the top of your head and then going through your mantras or sending the light through your vehicle in order to the body. Now that's for a purpose because it teaches you to stay tuned to the part of the head where you would probably receive your messages if you ever had one. You won't have any messages. Don't be confused and think you're supposed to listen for a message. If you hear somebody speaking, it's not, I can guarantee that is not the next level contact. So, but what we're doing is trying to teach you how to do it. So let's say you're at your autocrat task. You keep your mind on the top of your head, but yet you are doing your task. And every once in a while you send your thoughts back to the top of your head. Meditation do the same thing. You may not all the time feel your concentration at the top of your head, but when you feel like you don't feel it, then immediately go back to it. You always want to be aware of that part of your being.
Maybe say that maybe the word messages isn't even exactly right for what you're preparing yourself for, because what you're preparing yourself for is to be in tune for information. Messages you can think of in a little different category, which would open the door more for the kind of information you would get from other sources other than the next level. Do you understand what we're saying? The difference would be information can come to you like the next level would come to you when you have learned to do this, and when it would be time for you to do this, which it is not yet. It would come to you as an idea, as information, but you would recognize as the idea unfolded, you know who's on the other end of the line. And it's a little different, not always, because even Lucifer and his forces know how to come in that same way and try to pretend to be the next level. And it takes careful, and one reason we say you're not ready for it, you don't know the effort and care we have to exert to glean the difference and to be sure that we're staying on solid ground. Do you know what we mean by that?
What's so funny is that when you receive a message from the next level, you know it's from the next level. But it's the messages in between that you wonder about. You know, that's what you have to carefully wean out and decide whether or not they're the true thing. But it isn't until the actual message comes from, or the communication comes from the next level that you know without a doubt that that's where it's from.
Meditation is talking about first thing inside. And I know when I concentrate on that breathing back and forth, my brain goes.
No, that's not what you're doing. What you're doing, let's say that you're doing a mantra. You're saying a mantra. And let's say you start out by saying, the power of life is flowing from me, back and you say, oh, the body is healing perfectly. Now that's weak mind. Strong mind is moving all the way through, whether the house falls down around you, catches on fire, or they hit you in the back of the head if you walk by.
Even a distraction that required your attention, you could give it the attention and still follow through on it.
Now that's
And feel it. And feel it. When he's talking about the strength of mind, you would feel it. Now you don't think I'm going to strengthen my mind and do something to strengthen my mind. That doesn't work. I don't know what you would be doing. But to strengthen your mind is to increase the comprehension, the understanding, and the potency of what it is that you're trying to do.
Well, it's just the concentration, unbroken concentration. That's what we're talking about, getting more minded. In other words, as you improve your ability to concentrate, you are bringing strength of mind. Because that's just the way of expressing it, bringing in more mind. But if you're getting a headache, then you're not doing it right. Because first you have to tense up to cause a headache.
Some kind of stress is coming there somewhere.
Well, I was just saying, like I've seen you say, force my mind in. I try to force my mind in. I can feel my brain.
Well, but that's because you're misinterpreting what
Right.
force means.
Force
You're
means
turning it to
concentrate.
stress.
Concentrate. Don't let Bodhi as she drops those dishes behind you cause you to stop what you're doing. If you're meditating. Well, I'm sure this will help.
And then I'd have to go back and relax.
If you had to go back and relax it, you've done something wrong. That's not forcing.
You want to keep on saying your mantra or whatever it is you're saying in your meditation with a relaxed mind, but with the strength of mind to be able to do it all the way through with distractions happening all around you. Like one
And do it with
individual.
feeling. It's got
Right.
to have some significance.
You can't just say it from memory, without any feeling. You have to feel it all. It's just like one individual said when he's trying to meditate, there's too much noise going on around him. Well, he wants to be able to meditate with all kinds of noise going on. And he wants to be able to meditate walking down the street.
In other words, he should learn to be able to.
Meditate meaning concentrating on a thing that you are trying to concentrate on at that time, which is something that is to help you in some way. In other words, like if you were saying, let's say that you were disturbed over something as you were walking down the street. You could say to yourself, I'm not going to allow that to disturb me. I'm going to be relaxed. I'm going to let tension or stress come into my body. This is programmed in me. And then all kinds of cars can run into each other. They can, piano can drop behind you, and you can keep right on going. You can see this happening, but you're not allowing it to affect you. And this is what you want to work toward in your meditation. I feel like pressure. Right now, I'm trying to I think it's because you're trying to concentrate. You're using muscles.
And you might be doing too many things at once. Like if I were sitting where you're sitting, I would just try not to be distracted and try to listen very carefully. I wouldn't be checking my vehicle out to see if it's relaxed. I wouldn't be trying to keep my thoughts at the top of my head. No, because those are going to be distractions to concentrating on what I'm saying.
When you're receiving information from the next level of you, and so you don't have to keep contact with the top of your head.
It's there anyhow.
It's there automatically.
That's right, if you're not letting interference come in.
But when you're in your meditation, when you're at your outcome, you can do it. You don't want to do it where it is causing stress, but after already pain in your head, because your thoughts can actually do damage to your vehicle if they're strong enough. Meaning, like images, like what we told you, if you push, if you concentrate on something hard enough, you can cause something to be healed. Okay. And since if you put pressure on your brain, you're not going to make that, or in the top of your head, you're not going to make your head in a better place. You might cause it to be sore or something. You know what I'm saying?
Well, it'll be tense and it won't be as receptive.
It'll, you're not helping yourself by making yourself hurt.
Anytime that you feel that kind of pressure, then you want to try to relax more. But you want to try to do it other than when you're listening, or when you're trying to listen, you don't want to have to think about anything else.
Let me tell you again, like we explained before, touch this part of your hand. Now, what do you feel when you touch it? You're concentrating on it right now because you see it right now. And that's all you're supposed to feel. You're not supposed to feel your hand touching it. But it will be just remember how you feel when you're concentrating. You see what I'm saying? There's no pressure, no stress on it. But you feel it. And you can find another spot in your head first. It isn't anything that's really that difficult. And so this is how all you want to do is think of a spot. Right here. Try to do it without any stress. Can you do it? Probably not as strong as it could be, but you keep it up and it'll get stronger and stronger.
I try to feel and think that is what it felt like when I touched it.
Is that how it is? You all who are going back, you can show me where you touch. Not as simple as you know. Remember how we joked about the Holy Grail that Colin does every day? You know, they made something out of a cup that's just like that green plastic cup that we drank our juice out of twice a day. Making something holy out of that, you know. It isn't as magic as people would like for it to be. It's just very real, what we're trying to get you to do. It's nothing difficult. You won't have a membrane pop in your head. You won't have bright lights shooting out. It'll just be a thought. You're thinking at the top of your head. Don't think from the top of your head. So, y'all remember when you told you to do that?
Not think off the top of your
Off
head.
the top of your head.
Talk off the top of your head.
Off the top of your head. Anybody else want to? I'm wondering. I'm not sure how to explain that. You can tell them what you did. You're not going to tell them that they have to put it into this. This is the thing. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
You lived because you were isolated and you were in a place
That
where
doesn't mean everybody has to tell about the tense. But if you want to put the tense experience in, you certainly shouldn't make it look as if that's what they're about to do. Because their method, those who would read this and the processes they would be taken through to prepare themselves would be quite different.
Like also there explained that how to do it. They might want to
No, it's
even
important.
mine, oh, you might not want to use the spacecraft and things like that. I just said I used instead of big towns. I don't know, it just seems easy.
Well, that would be consumptively okay.
But I don't know about the craft because you read where how to use it.
Whatever you say. I don't think it matters. Whatever you say, I think that's not to. Would you rather be sleeping?
It just doesn't seem like it would fly in the moon because they're not going to leave this garden. And at that time, in other words, you all were being trained to leave the garden. And I don't know if they're going to be
It
around.
seems like for what you're talking about, for terminology to have different meanings if you could leave out the craft test.
Change that.
You're right. Deep covers, slingshot.
To break away from the human mind.
Not just walk into certain terminology, change your way of looking at it.
Even to overcoming the humanness is what they're trying to do, right? And so therefore, changing their lingo plus their way of life would help them to overcome the humanness.
I believe it's pretty much detailed, but this is mind all about the
Yeah, that might be okay.
I wouldn't imagine myself sitting in front of the chief in this environment. You would think of it as in an environment away from the planet. And I can't think of what you could imagine except a craft or some room that was not on this planet at all. You didn't want to mention the word craft. Space where that individual was seated and what you would feel, being aware of who he was and who you are, and that's what you're. I don't think you need to have to. Sounds like on the voting hand.
You don't have to imagine what he looks like.
No.
Or anything like that. But just what you feel,
Yes, you don't want to think of him as a blob of light or
you got
Cyclops.
Really affecting me, because I feel like, well, really,
writing it down, you've exposed it, and you can begin to correct it. It wouldn't do any good to give it to us. Because all I do is just upset us to find out how dishonest you are. I'm only joking. But it would mean more to you than it would mean to anybody else. But the most place, I think the most, the place where most of you, no, where all of you, I'll put it that way, all of you are dishonest is how you act in the craft. In other words, you all still allow if we could go through the craft and see you all acting as members of the next level, we would feel like that would be the biggest accomplishment. And you all could ever make. And it isn't that you all are consciously doing it. Not trying to stop it. It's just that it's you still haven't gotten the strength enough in your mind to stay as a member of the next level.
Because honesty is a matter of degrees. And what she is saying is if you could become awake enough that you were staying who you really are, then honesty would go with you constantly. It's when you're slipping in and out of humanness that without even knowing it, you slip into a condition of degree of dishonesty with yourself, with others, and with the circumstances. If you all leave to go back to your craft after spending here for the time that you're here, and I see you in the car, I see a change over you all. In other words, you are different than you are when you're here. I watch you from my window, and I see some with expression on their face that I know that is not like what we see when we get here. And this is what we're talking about, or what I'm talking about. When we want you to be as you are right now, sitting here with us all the time. Then you would be honest.
Right.
All the time.
And that's why it's so hard for you in this particular mood. This kind of honesty to be this way. I mean, for you all to be honest this way all the time.
It's kind of goodness.
It's hard.
And if it's pretense, see, if something else comes into you when you're not sitting with us, then it makes a lie of what you were doing when you were sitting with us. Can you see what I'm saying? Which meant you were dishonest then. But for the most part, we feel like you're genuinely on your best behavior when you're with older members, which would make then to us the criteria of measuring your goodness or your honesty. Can you follow that? Because that would be when you would be in your best behavior. And anything different from your best behavior to us becomes dishonest. Can you follow that?
That kind of honesty needs to be improved. Because humans think if you don't steal, and if you don't intentionally hurt somebody or something, you're being dishonest. But they don't really know what honesty is. And I feel like we kind of are always standing over before we were here all the time. And we kind of, they can't hardly scratch their head without our knowing it. And therefore, they are on their best behavior and more honest. And in my way of thinking, it's more like in the craft.
Circumstance forces it.
Right, because they're forced to be honest. And however, once they get downstairs, there's something we don't know what goes on. but we feel by their vibrations that they're being one of us. You see what I'm saying? Now, if you all could imagine, the ones back in the past, if you all could imagine that your teachers or some older members are standing over you all the time, seeing everything that you do, then you would be more apt to be honest.
And just on your best behavior all the time. Now, these four up here, they've had some periods when they've had to work harder at it, and it hasn't been easy at times for them. But like you said, if you could just, that would be the ideal, is if you could keep in your conscious mind a feeling of an older member being right there looking over your shoulder all the time, no matter where you're going, if you're in a car, or you're at your desk, or in the bathroom, anywhere else, and that you wouldn't do anything or think anything or have an expression on your face that would not be pleasing in their eyes. That would be best behavior, consistency.
I know we tried to help you to understand this some time ago when we told you you had a monitor watching. You know, I thought, goodness, if the monitor was watching me, and I were in your place, I wouldn't do anything that I wasn't supposed to do. I don't think the understanding was there to fully understand what you were supposed to do. But you've grown now to understand.
Don't ever think that, well, the next level's used to me.
It's used to you?
Yeah, that's about the worst thing you could think. Is, well, they've been monitoring me all this time, and they know all they know my ways and all that I've got to deal with, and if they're going to monitor me, they know what they're doing. You know,
it's good they know what to mark down automatically.
But that's a very, very dangerous attitude. Is to think that is to get in a position where you would feel like they would take for granted your inconsistency, your dishonesty, your less than best behavior, because it's never pleasing, anything less than best. And they don't just accept you on terms of all these weaknesses. They accept you as someone who is learning to be on their best behavior all the time.
Well, you've got to remember you're members of the next level. You don't want to go back with everybody thinking that you have the ability to do things that you're not supposed to be doing, but you know that it's right. Now, you can say, but I'm innocent. I'm not fully awakened yet, you know. And so therefore,
Not responsible.
That's right, I'm not responsible. But you know now who you are, even though you may not fully believe it. And so you have no excuse. Prior to this, you had an excuse. That's right. Ignorance of the law is no excuse.
Well, the trouble is, you know the law. Therefore, it must be periodically permitting blindness to come in order to not keep it.
Now, they're very, very fair in their evaluation. If they know out of your innocence, like Pam Modi was talking about how she didn't realize she was innocent until she began to think about it. Now, prior to that, prior to her realizing how dishonest she felt like she was, I doubt very seriously she was really as dishonest as she thinks she is, but in a degree it may have little things that do need to be cleared away. Now, prior to her realizing it, the fairness of the next level, the marks would be very, very mild in that direction. But now that she has realized where she is dishonest and she does nothing about it, then the marks would be stronger against her. You see what I'm saying? Now, they're not going to whip you or do anything to you, but you will know. You as an individual will know where you have fallen. You see what I'm saying? That is the worst thing that can happen, to know and not to do anything else. And then to know that you are capable of doing it will cause you to suffer. Nobody's going to punish you in the name of it. You will be able to see your grave, I'm sure, and the extent what you have experienced. And I'm sure you'll be high hit for a long time. But you also will have some things to say, and they may balance out. But of course, the things that you didn't do right that you're concerned with, because you want to make sure that you learn how to do the right things that you know, that's great that you know. You will always know the things that you don't know, but you want to correct. And that's the way it always is. That's why we always take the things you don't do. I'll tell you everything that you do, we'd be wasting more